Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where every week I'm sharing a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. First, thank you for stopping by the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. I do hope that this video finds you doing well. I hope you're taking the time that you need and deserve and are worthy of to care for yourself, heart, mind, body, and soul. Again, thanks for being here. If you feel like supporting the channel by liking, subscribing, sharing, that's great. But either way, I appreciate you and I appreciate you stopping by. So with all that being said, let's just take a moment. Take a breath. And let's get started with today's video, today's message, shall we? So I want to talk about TV when I was a kid. When I was a kid growing up in the 70s. And some of you will recall this and relate, some of you may not, but either way, I hope it lands in a way that makes sense. So when I was a kid growing up in the 70s, TV was much different, and TV in the 80s and 90s as well was much different. When we wanted to watch something on TV, it was scheduled and we had to be there. So for example, in the 70s, on Tuesday nights, on ABC at 8 o'clock was Happy Days. At 8:30 was Laverne and Shirley. At 9 o'clock was Three's Company. Now, if I wanted to watch Happy Days at 8, my mom would let me, and she would usually let me stay up and watch Laverne and Shirley at 8:30. And if I really tried, she might let me stay up to watch Three's Company at 9. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But again, when you wanted to watch something on TV, back then, you had to watch it when it was on. Now, as a kid, it was everything. If I missed Three's Company, if my mom, not that I was a huge fan, but I was a kid, I liked it. If my mom wouldn't let me stay up, I missed it. Now, maybe we would catch things on reruns, maybe, you know, when they weren't airing new episodes, maybe during the holidays, they'd air some reruns, might be able to catch it. I wouldn't know. Maybe it would be in the TV guide that it was a repeat. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe we wouldn't even have the TV guide. Maybe it would get thrown out. I was a kid. I wasn't on top of that much. So in that moment, wanting to watch Three's Company at 9 o'clock was massive. Maybe we could catch it when they ran reruns during the summer, if they even ran reruns of that episode. But basically, you had to be there at the time when it was airing, or you missed it. And again, so Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, my mom would let me watch Happy Days and the Fonz, and then at 8:30, she'd almost always let us watch Laverne and Shirley. 9 o'clock was bedtime, and Mom, please let me stay up, please let me stay up. And my mom was gracious. Sometimes she'd let us stay up, or I should say me, can't speak for my brother and sister. Sometimes she'd let me stay up. Usually, often, I do recall that she would. She was kind enough. Probably I wore her down and she didn't want to deal with it. Fine, just watch it. But not always. There were times where she wouldn't let me watch it and I'd have to go to bed and I'd miss it. That's the way TV worked for a very long time. Let's talk about how TV works now, and I promise all of this will make sense in a spiritual way. Just please stick with me. TV now, you can watch anything, anywhere, at any time. I can watch all the Three's Company I want right now, at any time, no matter where I am, grab my phone, boom, I can watch Three's Company. Okay, that was TV then. That was TV now. Back then I was at the mercy of my mom, who was usually kind and gracious. Now, watch whatever I want. You know, here's the connection I'm going to make. Back in Jesus' time, that's sort of how the approach was to God. The theology of the time was God, yes, God is present in the world, but if people really wanted to experience God and connect with God, it was in the temple in Jerusalem. And even that was restricted. There was a woman's court, and there was the Holy of Holies, where only priests could go. So there was a limitation in access to God. It was sort of like me and Three's Company as a kid. But then Jesus tried changing things, and he did change things. And the Jesus effect, as I'll call it, God was anywhere, at any time, for anyone, for all times, including right now. Yes, sadly, even now, there are folks that want to exclude and make it like watching Three's Company back in 1977. God isn't for you. You can't come to church. You can't this, that. And that's a shame. We don't want that. But my point is that when Jesus came along, Jesus changed the attitude, the relationship, the perception, all of it with God. God is for anyone, everywhere, at any time. It's no longer a restricted access type deal in the temple. Now, I'm talking about all this, and part of the reason why I made that TV in the 70s, Three's Company versus TV now analogy, because it does connect to my mom. It does. And I think it's a good analogy. I think it works. You know, God's approach then, our approach to God then versus our approach to God now, and the understanding that God is everywhere. I like that analogy. I think it works. But also it does connect to my mom because, you know, my relationship with God, my understanding of God comes from my mom. I was blessed in that way. And on Mother's Day, it's a good time for me to talk about that, to witness about that. That, you know, my mom taught me this. My mom, from a very young age, you know, we were raised Methodist. My mother was raised Methodist. My grandmother, on both sides, very devout Methodist. But my mom's mom, my grandmother, raised Methodist, very involved in the church. My mother raised me that way. But she raised me in more than that way. She taught me about the value of church. She taught me about the value of going on retreat. She taught me about the value of scripture and hymns. But she also taught me very well that God is anywhere, anytime, everywhere, for everyone, including me. She was very clear on that. You know, my mother was at her best, and she was a good mom. She is a good mom, still with us. Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. My mom really was, when I was growing up, at her best when she was bringing me closer to God, when she was imparting such wisdom to me. She taught me, we had conversations. She was at her best letting me know that God is everywhere, at any time, for anyone, including me. She was at her best letting me and my siblings know that nobody is outside of God's sphere and circle of love, that everybody is welcome, everybody should be accepted, including us. And that was a valuable lesson that clearly stayed with me throughout my life. And I appreciate that. Jesus would be proud of my mom and what she imparted to me, what she shaped me as, how she gave me that to let me know that, yes, church is great, has its place. Yes, God is everywhere. God is for you. God is everywhere at any time for anyone and everyone. So, like in the 70s, my mom was gracious enough to sometimes let me stay up and watch Three's Company. My mom was also someone that imparted how it works in the relationship with God, that God is everywhere for anyone at any time, including me. And I'm here now to share that with us as well, for you. God is everywhere. God is everywhere at any time. God is for everyone, including you, including me, including all of us. So I want to remind us of that, and I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, to everyone out there. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. I also want to share blessings and love and care to all who struggle with this day, all who struggle with all holidays. In general, they're not easy for people for various reasons, and Mother's Day brings its own set of challenges for folks. So this message is also to share love and care and understanding and empathy with you, and to remind you especially that, yeah, God is here for you. God is everywhere for you at any time for you. So again, God is everywhere you are, caring for you, being there for you, loving you, all of us. Happy Mother's Day. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to my mom. I appreciate you, Mom, and I love you. Happy Mother's Day. Okay, my friends, thank you again for stopping by the video. I hope in some way, shape, or form you found this video helpful, spiritually fruitful, and I wish you nothing but peace, love, and God's presence and fellowship with the Almighty and Jesus with you on your journey going forward. Remember, God is everywhere, at any time, for anyone, including you. Amen. I love you all. Have a great day. Have a great week. Ciao, ciao.